Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, here in Season 3 of Warzone, you can pretty much use almost any gun you want. Keyword, almost. If you run around with the Dragunov, I don't know what to tell you. With that said, the fact that this meta is so open has really diversified pretty much every single weapon category. Obviously, you can use a ton of different rifles, a ton of different SMGs, LMGs, shotguns, and also snipers. Previously, before things like the FFAR and the fire shotgun and all sorts of weapons like that were dominating the close range meta, you pretty much always had a pretty diverse sniper meta. You know, in Modern Warfare was the AX50, the HDR, the CAR, of course, the SPR. We've also seen several Cold War snipers make their way into the sniping meta. The Tundra, the Pellington, the ZRG. Like, there's a lot of different options. There's been a lot of different options. And now here in Season 3, you got a lot of different options for sniping loadouts, what to use as your actual sniper, then also the sniper complement as well. So today we're breaking down the top 5 best sniper loadouts to use in Warzone right now. As always, if you enjoy the video at any point, or if you just find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. Goal for this one is going to be 4,000 likes. And of course, if you're new here, or if you haven't already subscribed yet, I am always covering everything going on in COD, news, intel, updates, loadouts, it's all right here. So feel free to subscribe, that way you can always stay up to date. Alright, so I've gone ahead, I've built out my 5 loadouts that I've been using a ton in-game recently, sort of messing around with a bunch of different secondaries, a bunch of different actual snipers. We're gonna break them all down here. First and foremost, I wanna go over like the most basic of sniper loadouts, and that's my fully loaded one. We did cover this back in like my best loadouts after the mid-season update video, but in case you missed that one, it's my pretty standard car setup here. We've got the monolithic suppressor, the 27.6-inch barrel, the tac laser, the sniper scope, and then also fully loaded. So if I'm coming back from a ghoulie, if I need to regain and I know it's going to be a sniper zone, this is usually the loadout I'll grab. That way I can have max sniper ammo. And for the sake of just having a secondary here, while I can keep restock and whatnot, I do use the Psychov, monolithic suppressor, automatic barrel, the 80-round drums, the Priz rack grip, and then also fully loaded yet again. That, like I said, is pretty much my regain class if I want to snipe. But of course, most of the time, you're not necessarily going for that off the rip. You're going to be using something else, like for instance, the first setup here, which again features the car, and pretty much the same setup here, but instead of having fully loaded, I've got the comb stock that's going to offer up some better stability here, but all the other attachments are the same. Monolithic suppressor for that added range. You also get to stay off the minimap, which is a huge bonus. We've got the longest barrel on there, pretty much a go-to on all snipers. The tac laser for better speed and stability, and then also the sniper scope. And I do go ahead and use the cross-thread reticle here. However, I know a lot of people have tried out pinpoint in the past. I know a lot of people like top notch. Cover shot's another very popular one. Really, this comes down to preference over everything else. But yeah, same car setup here. Then for the secondary, I've got the RAM, and this is a different RAM setup compared to what I normally use. And this one in specific, I've really been enjoying lately. I've been using this, honestly, just on some other loadouts too, because it feels so good. It's very agile. It's a bit more close and medium range based than my other normal RAM setup. Here, once again, we've got the monolithic suppressor, no brainer there. I actually go for the Eclipse barrel over the Ranger barrel. Usually, I'd be using the Ranger just to get the most range and the most control possible. But here, I mean, you get the range, you get the velocity. The control on the RAM, I really don't think is that bad. Like, it's a pretty basic pattern to learn. So once you get that down, you can counter it very, very easily. And this is not going to hurt your mobility as much as the Ranger would. So like I said, it is better for some closer range fights. Alongside that, I've got the tac laser for primarily that better mobility there. I've got the commando foregrip to help out with that control. It'll sort of minimize it in that regard. Then finally, I've got the 50-round mags. Like I said, I've really been enjoying this setup. This sniper setup with the car and with the RAM is sort of my go-to right now. However, as we go throughout all the other loadouts, you can sort of swap out the primary or the secondary with any of the other ones, and they'll work pretty well. They complement each other pretty nicely. But moving on, the next loadout we've got features the Tundra and the LC-10. The Tundra, I've sort of been back and forth with all year long just because it does have insane velocity, especially now after it was fixed for a while. They actually ended up stealth nerfing the Tundra, basically, and then I think also the Pellington as well. They hurt the velocity on it, whereas previously it had the best velocity in the game. Now it's back to having just some insane velocity. So if you're fighting really, really long-range sniper fights, say you're on top of like Summit and you're looking out towards like ATC, the bullet drop is going to be a lot easier to counter in situations like that just because the velocity is insane. But as far as the attachments go here, I've got the wrap suppressor and the combat recon barrel. These two are key if you want to go for that insane velocity. Combined, they really, really up that stat quite a bit. However, you could also try and go with the sound moderator. In this case, I probably wouldn't, but if you wanted a faster Tundra, if you're really confident in your sniper shot, you're not really fighting in super long range fights that often, getting that extra speed out of this can actually be pretty beneficial. But personally, I do think the wrap suppressor is still the best way to go in this case, but that'll change later on into the video. Then alongside that, I've got the 5 milliwatt laser. This is almost going to act as a tac laser basically now. That of course recently was changed in a recent update. Fantastic change in my opinion. I've also got the airborne elastic wrap here for better ADS time, but then also the increased flinch. Previously, we were pretty much always using the serpent grip, which honestly is still a great choice. You have less cons in this case, but airborne elastic wrap honestly feels pretty good. And then when it comes to the final attachment, you can go a few different routes. As we know, using the 4x scope now is going to give you glint. And if you're not worried about having glint, then honestly, I wouldn't rock the 3x. I'm using the 3x currently because that is still going to hide you, which honestly can be a huge benefit to have. And if I do use that, I do also use the precision reticle, which I won't lie, isn't the greatest. It's no cross thread, it's no cover shot, but I think it's the best out of all the options that we've got here, with maybe the exception of the donut. But if you're not worried about having glint, if you don't care that you're going to show up if you're looking at enemies, I'd probably go ahead and I'd take off that optic, have just like the base standard sniper scope. Then I'd probably throw on like the 7-round mag. You could maybe go for something like the bruiser grip, get some better mobility out of it, or maybe even a stock like the Raider pad. So you got a few choices there if you don't want to use that 3x scope, but personally, I like having that sort of stealth factor on there. Then when it comes to the LC10, pretty standard setup here that we've been using pretty much since the last update. The sound suppressor, of course, for that better mobility and to keep us off the radar. I've got the task force barrel, which is pretty much the go-to on all the SMGs. The Tiger Team Spotlight for better mobility, the Bruiser Grip for better mobility. So I'm very fast. Of course, I've got this out anytime we're trying to rotate, anytime we're trying to, push into a close quarters or medium range based area. So that's going to help out a ton with that. And then finally, I've got the 55 round mag on there as well. Next up, this is a bit more of an interesting setup. It's the ZRG and the Farah. The Farah, honestly, is still a really good secondary if you build it correctly, which of course we'll break that down here in just a moment. The ZRG, I won't lie, it's not my favorite sniper. It feels awkward to me. It's slow. The animation is sort of weird. Like, I'm just not really a big ZRG fan, but I can't deny the fact that its stats are insane. Like the Tundra, it has just some absurd velocity. I believe this and the Tundra are the two best in the game when it comes to that stat specifically. So for using it as an actual sniper, it is a fantastic choice. But like I said, when it comes to personal preference, I'm not a big fan of this gun in specific. It just feels a bit weird. But here, I am using the sound moderator, and I say that because it's slow, it's heavy, it's definitely an awkward sniper. You could definitely use the agency moderator, which is basically like the wrap suppressor. So if you want to get the max velocity here, agency moderator is probably the way to go. But if you want a sniper that's not going to feel as clunky and weird in most situations, I feel like the added speed that the sound moderator offers is a good way to almost counter that. Not entirely, but it's going to help out a bit. Of course, combat recon barrel yet again, the 5 milliwatt laser. I don't actually use an optic here because the base sniper scope on the ZRG, I think looks pretty good. Like, it almost looks like the cross thread reticle, so I just rock with that. I can live with that. I do also use the 5-round mag. You pretty much have to use a magazine here. It's a base 3-round magazine, which is just awful. You don't want to use that, so you're pretty much forced to use an ammo upgrade here in some capacity. I'd definitely go 4-round speed mag at the minimum, but I think 5-round works pretty well. And then finally, I've got the serpent grip on here. However, you could also go with the airborne elastic kit again. I just don't have it fully unlocked here. But serpent grip, like I said, totally viable still. You get that better mobility. That's primarily what you're looking for out of a rear grip. So a bit more of a different setup compared to like the Tundra, and that's honestly why I probably prefer the Tundra, just because you got to go some weird routes here because the weird magazine and whatnot. But overall, like I said, the stats don't lie. This thing is an insane sniper. Then alongside that, like I said, I've got the Farah, which I actually really enjoy. And here, I'm using a close range based setup. Obviously, I don't want to be bogged down. I don't want to be running incredibly slow. And typically, if you have an AR and a sniper together, you're not going to be super fast. Obviously, the LC10 setup that we showed previously is going to be a lot faster than this one, but you can actually make the Farah pretty viable for close range fights. Here we've got the standard suppressor, so we do keep that seclusion on the minimap, but also we get that added mobility. I've got the Spetsnaz RPK barrel for that better strafe speed and obviously the better range and velocity as well. The Tiger Team Spotlight and the Bruiser Grip yet again for that better mobility. However, you could always swap out the Bruiser Grip for, say, the Serpent Wrap again, maybe even the Raider stock or the Skeletal stock. But personally, I like that just super, super fast mobility, comparatively speaking. So Tiger Team and Bruiser together, I really enjoy. Then I've got the 45 round speed mag on there, primarily for the mobility benefits over the 60 round mag. This is going to slow you down a little bit more, but you could go 60 round mag too. That's more so preference based. Now, loadout number 4 is a throwback one. This is one you saw back in like Season 3, Season 4, right when Warzone first dropped. HDR MP7, all Modern Warfare based here. The HDR has been a fantastic sniper all year long, and conveniently enough, the setup's never really changed. Monolithic suppressor, no brainer of course. The HDR Pro barrel, which is the longest barrel, so again, a pretty obvious choice there. Tac laser, just like on the car. I rock the variable zoom scope here just because if I'm using the HDR over the car, I'm doing it for that longer range. And when you have the variable zoom scope, you can zoom in so far and get such a clean shot on enemies that are, further away from you. So when it comes to really long distance fights, variable zoom is actually pretty beneficial in that regard. Then finally, I've got the Stalker Scout stock for that better ADS time. Gonna help out a bit with the mobility there just because this is not the fastest sniper in the world. Then on the MP7, pretty much the go-to setup here. I love this thing. It's a great close and almost medium range SMG as well. Very similar to the LC10 in that regard. And here again, we've got the monolithic suppressor, the recon barrel for the best range and control possible, the tac laser for that better mobility, the 60 round mags, then also the icon, the Stippy Grippy. And then the final setup we're looking at here is another one that I've been using quite a bit recently, and I've really been enjoying it. It's the Swiss, and then also the AK-47. I'm not gonna lie, I've kind of been liking the Swiss a bit more than the car recently. The recent buffs to the Swiss made it really good. Like, this thing is now very fun to use. It's very agile, it's a very fast sniper, very similar to the car in that aspect, but it also has really good stats when it comes to range and velocity as well. So you get a lot of good things out of the Swiss, I would say. Here, as far as the setup goes, we're rocking the GRU suppressor. You could go sound moderator yet again, just because it's going to increase that mobility even more, make this a great like quick scoping sniper and way more aggressive sniper, but it doesn't have the best velocity in the world. Like I said, it's beaten out by the Tundra, the HDR, so on and so forth. So I like to try and get it closer to those weapons and have it compete a bit more in some of the longer range fights as well. So I rock the GRU, which is basically the equivalent of the RAP suppressor. Again, we've got the combat recon barrel, the 5mm laser acting as a tac laser. The 7 round mag, you could once again go for the bruiser grip. This comes, I think, with 5 rounds by default, so you don't necessarily have to have a mag on there, but I don't need to use an optic. I like the base sniper scope quite a bit, so I go for a mag instead of anything else. Then finally, I've got the serpent grip yet again, but again, you could also go for the airborne elastic if you got that unlocked. Either of those are going to work just fine. And then for the AK-47, this is pretty much a copy and paste of the Farah setup. However, you could do one thing different here. Again, I've got the regular suppressor for that better mobility, the RPK barrel for more of the same, and then also that added range and velocity, the Tiger Team Spotlight, the bruiser grip, then also the 45 round speed mag. However, I've also been running a setup that has the serpent grip instead of that bruiser grip. You lose a bit more of your actual movement speed, but you do get a better ADS speed there. So sort of depending on how you want to build your AK, you can sort of go either way. And honestly, you could do the same thing on the Farah as well. It just comes down to what you prefer, regular movement speed or ADS speed. I could go either way. Most of the time, I think I'm going to lean towards the bruiser just because I like to have that faster actual mobility so I can sort of finesse players. I can dip around corners, slide cancel a little bit, slide back around, sort of finesse people here and there. And with the bruiser grip on there, that's going to help out a bit more, make that a bit easier. But like I said, sort of comes down to your specific preference. But yeah, man, any of these setups are going to work really well. I enjoy using all these. They all work in their own little ways. The car is obviously a bit more aggressive. The Tundra is really great for long distance sniping. And any of the secondaries you could swap out. You could use the LC10 in the car. You could use the Ram in the ZRG, the Farah in the Tundra. You can have all sorts of different setups here, and that's what's great about this current meta. But that is going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here or if you haven't already subscribed, I am always covering everything going on in COD, news, intel, updates. It's all right here. So feel free to subscribe. That way you can always stay up to date. Once again, and as always, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.